I saw the snake crawl out of his body, and I will never forget the sound of Precious's scream. It wasn't the scream of someone afraid of spiders or startled by the dark. It was the kind of scream that ripped through the soul, raw and filled with terror. I was frozen behind the flimsy curtain, clutching my chest to keep my own breathing silent. My childhood friend, my sister in every way but blood, was on the bed, and her husband, if you could call him that, was transforming into something I could barely comprehend. Today, I want to share a story of how my friend Precious fell in love with and even married a snake, unknowingly, not until their wedding night. This story doesn't start with the wedding or even the day Musa arrived in our village. It starts with a dream. About 2 months before Musa's arrival, Precious came to me in a panic. "I had the strangest dream," she said. Her hands trembled as she poured water into a clay cup. "There was a man, tall and handsome, who offered me a necklace. But when I reached for it, the necklace turned into a snake and coiled around my neck. I couldn't breathe. I woke up choking. I laughed it off at the time." "Dreams are just dreams," I said, patting her hand. "Maybe it's a sign you shouldn't trust men bearing gifts." We laughed about it and waved it off, but now I wish I had listened. 2 months later, Musa appeared out of nowhere one afternoon, riding into the village on a horse as black as night. His clothes were too fine for a traveler, crisp white robes with golden embroidery and a ring on his finger that caught the sunlight like a star. He claimed to be a trader, passing through on his way to the coast. But something about him made people stop and stare. He had a way of speaking that made you feel like you were the only person in the world. When he looked at Precious, it was as if she was a queen, not just a village girl who spent her days pounding millet and fetching water. It didn't take long for Musa to charm everyone, especially Precious. He brought her gifts, a string of pearls, delicate perfumes, bolts of fabric so soft they felt like clouds. He spoke of building her a house bigger than any in the village and of giving her a life she could only dream of. I wanted to be happy for her, but something about him felt wrong. It wasn't just his too perfect smile or the way he always seemed to know exactly what to say. It was the way the village dogs barked whenever he walked by, their hackles raised as if they could sense something we couldn't. Things moved very fast. Precious fell deep in love with him, she would get horny thinking about him, and she always dreamed about having an intense romance with him every night. Soon, Musa proposed and engaged her. I was so glad to see that my best friend would spend the rest of her life with someone she was genuinely in love with. The night before the wedding, an old woman came to me. She was known as the village herbalist, someone people turned to for remedies and blessings. But her presence always made me uneasy, her eyes were too sharp, as if she could see straight into your soul. She grabbed my wrist with her bony fingers. "Tell your friend not to marry that man," she said, her voice low and urgent. I tried to pull away, but her grip was iron. "Why not?" I asked. "Because he is not a man," she said. "He wears the skin of one, but his true form is something entirely else. If she marries him, she will be lost forever." I wanted to believe her, but how could I? Musa seemed perfect, and Precious was happier than I'd ever seen her. The old woman was probably just jealous, I told myself. She didn't know what she was talking about. The wedding was like a dream. Musa spared no expense, turning our humble village square into a scene out of a storybook. Bright fabrics fluttered in the breeze, drums and flutes filled the air with music, and the food seemed endless. But as I watched Precious dance with Musa, a strange chill crept over me. His smile didn't quite reach his eyes, and for just a moment, I thought I saw something move beneath his robes, a ripple, like something alive. That night, after the guests had left and the fires had died down, I couldn't shake my unease. I found myself walking toward the newlyweds' hut, drawn by a feeling I couldn't explain. I told myself I just wanted to make sure Precious was okay, but deep down, I knew I was looking for something more. When I reached the hut, the door was slightly ajar. I peeked inside and saw them by the bed. Musa's back was to me, his body stiff, his hands clenched at his sides. Precious was sitting on the edge of the bed, her wedding scarf still draped over her head. "What's wrong?" she asked, her voice trembling. Musa didn't answer. Instead, he began to shake. His shoulders heaved, and a low, guttural sound escaped his throat. Then his body started to change. His spine arched unnaturally, his skin rippling as if something was moving beneath it. Precious screamed as she unzipped his trouser open. She saw something she had never seen before. From the opening emerged a snake, its scales glistening in the moonlight. It was massive, its eyes glowing like embers, and its forked tongue flicked in and out as it hissed. Precious tried to run, but the snake was too fast. It coiled around her, pinning her arms to her sides. "You are mine now," it hissed, its voice a chilling blend of Musa's and something inhuman. I wanted to help her, to pull her away, but I couldn't move. My legs were rooted to the ground, and my breath caught in my throat. When I finally found the strength to run, it was too late. By the time I returned with the elders, the hut was empty. No Precious, no Musa, no sign of the snake. The old woman was waiting outside, her face grim. "I warned you," she said. "But now it's done. She belongs to him, the serpent spirit who walks among men. He will take her to his world, and she will never return." For weeks, I searched for Amina, traveling to nearby villages and calling her name in the forests. But I never found her. Sometimes, late at night, I dream of her. Amina stands by a river, her eyes wide with fear. She reaches out to me, but just as I try to grab her hand, the snake appears, its scales glistening, its eyes glowing. It wraps around her and pulls her beneath the water. And then I wake up, heart pounding, her scream echoing in my ears. Every day, I live with the guilt of not doing enough, of ignoring the signs. If only I had acted sooner, perhaps the story would have ended differently. Now that you've heard the story, what lesson have you taken from it? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your perspective. As for me, I've learned one thing: never ignore your instincts, dreams, or the warnings that come your way. Sometimes, they're not just coincidences, they're the truth we refuse to see. If this story resonated with you, please like the video, share it with someone who loves a good tale, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this one. Until next time, stay curious and stay safe.